Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. So President Biden is talking about putting Putin on a wartime trial. Does he expect Putin to turn himself in to stand trial, or does he think somebody's going to have to go into Russia and arrest him?
Well, without getting into the mechanisms, which I know were the good questions everybody was asking our national security advisor, there is precedent in the past of how this process can work. We're not going to prejudge what the process would work or what steps would be taken through an international legal process. So that's not quite where we're at right now, Peter, and I can't give you a sense of the mechanisms of if convicted, what would happen.
Okay, a question about college sports. In some places like the Ivy League now, there are biological males competing against women. Does the White House think that is fair?
Well, I would note that we're not the governing body for the NCAA or any other system out there that I believe you're probably referring to the case over in swimming in the NCAA. We understand how important sports are to student athletes across the country, but the NCAA obviously puts these policies in place. What I would say, Peter, if we look at this broadly, is that we celebrated International Transgender Day of Visibility last week with a slate of new actions to ensure we are continuing we continue to protect the dignity and identity of all Americans. And at a moment where we're looking at and we're seeing increased mental health issues related to young people, especially LGBTQ plus young people, we're providing additional funding and resources to address this issue. And we hope all leaders can focus on those important issues and the impact on many of these young people who are impacted across the country.
And then one about this new law in Florida. At what age does the White House think that students should be taught about sexual orientation and gender identity?
Well, I would say, first of all, Peter, we have spoken to the Don't Say Gay bill in the past, I believe is what you're referring to, and made clear that as we look at this law, what we think it's a reflection of is politicians in Florida propagating misinformed, hateful policies that do absolutely nothing to address the real issues. The Department of Education is well positioned and ready to evaluate what to do next, and its implementation, whether its implementation violates federal civil rights law. But I would note that parents across the country are looking to national, state, and district leaders to support our nation's students, to ensure that kids are treated equally in schools, and that is certainly not, this is not a reflection of that.
And so just the last one. So if you guys oppose this law that bans classroom instruction about sexual orientation and gender identity in K through 3, does the White House support that kind of classroom instruction before kindergarten?
Do you have examples of schools in Florida that are teaching kindergartners about sex education?
I'm just asking for the president's
Well, I think that's a relevant question, because I think this is a politically charged, harsh law that is putting parents and LGBTQ plus kids in a very difficult, a heartbreaking circumstance. And so I actually think that's a pretty relevant question. Go ahead.
On the